and offer a prayer about economic justice, which is something I'm very interested in and actively involved in the community. The kind of vast economic inequality we see is no accident. It's been happening quite systematically over the last few decades, and while it has gotten worse, or probably is the worst that we have ever seen in recent history, it's something that has happened because the few at the top have devised a way to keep the system going in their favor as opposed to its being equitable and available for all. This is what Joseph Stiglitz in his recent book, The Price of Inequality, calls the myth of the American dream. The reason I feel is quite obvious. There is nobody to speak for the poor. And the poor don't have the kind of lobbyists that we find in Washington today who are able to really rally for their rights and their needs. They have very much become the invisible population in our country, and as their ranks continue to grow, as the middle class slides more and more into poverty, we're seeing a vast underclass that's not being represented and whose needs and rights are being ignored by both parties, unfortunately. At the same time, there continue to be programs and policies being passed to eviscerate whatever remains, as there are cuts in social programs that affect the elderly, children, and the poor. We're going to see more and more people fall through the cracks. It's interesting you should ask that question. Upon some study of the beginnings of Mormonism, there are some historical connections between Unitarianism and Mormonism, not theological, as much as a commitment to religious freedom and being persecuted for their beliefs, which is something that both faith traditions have had to endure. And also some theological principles. One of the things that I respect about the Mormon faith is its commitment to serve the community, which has always been a big feature of both the Unitarian and the Universalist traditions since their inception. In general, there is a lot of dispiritedness and dissatisfaction about the state of affairs, and I think it cuts across political lines. People are scared, they're concerned that the stuff that is going on, be it in Washington or in the campaign, is largely unrelated to their lives. And the talking heads are basically spouting things that may or may not have a real bearing on where they are, and in the process they also feel disconnected, that somehow the politicians are disconnected from the realities of the common person's existence. But on the other hand, again, this is the beauty of American democracy and civil society, the hope that underlies all of this, that people still feel that their engagement in the political process and their willingness to take a stand and move from that place of discernment to choose who they think would be the better candidate would actually make a difference. And to me, that's more important than all the fluff that comes floating. While I'm a strong believer in the separation of church and state, I also believe that religious communities need to be engaged in the public arena, if nothing else to be the conscience, to draw attention to the fringes that tend to be ignored, and can remind the leaders of the land that we do need to develop a more caring, compassionate approach in how we address the many problems that we're faced with, and do so in a way that tries to keep people in the circle, not cast most of them out.